Hello, everyone, and welcome to day three of TestMU Conference 2026. I am Sudhir Joshi, VP Strategic Partnership at TestMU, and I'll be your host for the panel discussion today. Good to have you all. Quick ask before we begin. Post your takeaways on LinkedIn and X, tag us, and use hashtag TestMUConf so rest of the community can follow the conversation. For 2 decades, quality engineering at a global scale ran on a simple equation: more scope, meaning more testers. Agentic AI has broken that equation. Today, my esteemed panel, joined by key leaders managing large QE practices in world's largest service organization. And we are going to learn from them what this shift has actually done to their practice rather than what it's supposed to do. I would love to welcome Jeba, Group Vice President at Capgemini, Kima, Managing Director and Head of AI at Nagarro, Ninad, VP Solution Consulting, BFSI and Quality Engineering at Persistent. Suni will be joining us momentarily, but she's AVP and AI QE Services at LTM, and Raghav, Head of Sub-Practice AI GenAI Solution for Quality Engineering at Wipro. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out. I'll get started with straight some key question is, and I'd love to have everyone contribute to the answer is for 2 decades, like I said, the whole quality engineering ran on this pre-AI equation. More scope means more people and more engineers. And of course, automation did help in a way, but still, by and large, it was like that. What does that equation looks like now? And how has the structure of engineering teams fundamentally changed? We can start with you, Kima.
Sure, Sudhir. So, with AI, I think there are multiple changes we see across different dimensions. And I call it three Ws. First W stands for work, the other one stands for worker, and the third one stands for the workplace. And AI is basically influencing all of them. And maybe let's focus on the work part today, and especially focusing on the quality engineering space. I think AI can bring scale for sure. So to bring scale, we necessarily don't need additional headcount. As the volume increases, maybe in some situations we have to increase the headcount, but I think the rate of increase for is not going to be the same. So the scale aspect is taken care by AI, and because of that, there is fundamental shift in the way our quality engineers perform their role. For sure, there is transformation in terms of what they do. Their role is shifting from, let's say, someone who writes test cases to someone who supervises the output of AI. So there is shift in that. There is more need of human judgment. There is more need of human intelligence in the overall review of the outcome and the output of the AI. And that brings many other interesting questions. For example, how do I define a good tester? Can I say a good tester is someone who is writing more test cases or who is detecting more defects? So this definition itself is changing. So can I say a good tester is someone who has better human judgment, and will we have KPIs around that? So that is also transforming. So the way we look at the overall quality engineering, not just from a process point of view, from a from technology point of view, I think the human element of the overall quality engineering process is also transforming. So that is just my brief take here, but maybe I'll love to hear from other colleagues also.
That's interesting. Ninad, why don't you join and add to what Kima said?
Sure, and to add to Kima's points, right? So, what we are really saying is, I would look at it from three angles, right? So earlier, if you looked at a pyramid of any engineering team, right, you would see developers, the testers, and then you have the test analyst, the test lead, and the test manager, and so on. So that was the earlier pyramid. But then now it's changed a lot with AI coming into picture, right? Basically, what we are seeing today would be AI engineers and developers who are using AI for their day-to-day work. Then we have the SDETs and the AI leads or engineers who are actually building AI, right? So they're building platforms, they're building agents, okay, and this requires a very different type of skills. And then we have the AI architects, all right? So who would actually compose the overall agent, or orchestrate all the agents, the context setting, right? And this is the third layer that we are seeing. So we are seeing a drastic change in the overall pyramid that is now forming, right? So that's on the people side of it. We also see a difference in the technological skills, right? Technological skills, at the same time the tools capability. So if you see that earlier in the days, like we had computer engineers, right? Computer science engineers who would have the foundation built, and then there were different programming languages, Java, .NET, and so on. And then any computer engineer could easily pick up any of these languages, right? Now the change that has happened is now it's the AI foundation that is very important today. I mean, you need to have technology skills, which will be interesting in terms of like having prompt engineering, having the ability to create knowledge graphs, ability to create the MCP servers, right? So these are some of the foundational things that are required today in the engineering teams. And then it will be very easy to take any of the tools, AI tools that are there in the market, right? You have to be expert on one of them, and then you can pick up on any of them. Similar to what earlier the computer engineers used to take on any of these. And the main part is like we see that if you look at the AI tools, uh, the there's so many tools coming in the last 1 or 2 quarters or 3 quarters. If you see, you have flood of AI tools. You take the example of Cursor in 2024, it came up in 2023 rather, and then 2024 it came up as a agentic IDE. Today, it has been taken over, and taken over what level? I mean, $60 billion, right? So it's such a fast, turnover of AI tools. So for the teams, it becomes very difficult to catch up with all the tools. So it is very important to have the foundation and concentrate on one of the tools so that it is easier to take up any of the tools which the client has at the industry. So that's my take on where the structure of our engineering team is changing.
Super. I mean, Jeba, you like to add anything to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's an amazing forum and a great exchange of ideas. So, I'm glad to be here. With regards to what's changed from a pre-AI equation, I'd like to point out maybe 3 or 4 things. One, I think the dev to QA ratio has significantly changed, right? There are questions on, okay, why do we even need testers? We have agents, and I'm vibe coding it. I'm using a BMAD, and there's already a testing persona there. It's going to write the playwright test. Do I even need a human? So that's a question that, again, at various stages of this, the evolution of software engineering, that we have tried to answer differently. And as you know, every year in the World Quality Report, we also kind of deep dive into where does quality engineering as a practice sit. That said, like I said, the dev to QA ratio has changed drastically. So it doesn't, more scope doesn't necessarily mean hiring more engineers, as you said. Although I still feel that the context is important. Not all applications are built equally, right? When you're testing say a mobile app versus if you're testing a core banking application, or something running operations for a huge manufacturing firm, that the nature of that composition, the team composition, is something that has evolved and will continue to evolve, right? So that's one trend, I would say, without giving any numbers. The second thing that I would like to call is automation is not something that sits down, the life cycle, and it's not an afterthought. It's become more of the norm, right? And beyond automation, we are also talking about autonomous workflows, in terms of how we pick a requirement all the way down to like even logging a defect or the feedback loops. From a life cycle standpoint, how do you automate, not just the testing itself? So that's also something that feeds into that dev to QA ratio on, okay, it's the norm. You're not really thinking of, okay, I first write the functional test case and then I automate. Rather, how do I really sort of automate the process itself, but also automate the testing? The third important trend is it's more platform driven than people driven. Ninad was talking about Cursor, and there's all these kinds of different platforms and tools coming up, and it evolves. So more and more, I feel that it is very, very important for engineering, quality engineering organizations or quality functions to focus on having a core solid platform, whatever that may be, right? And we are talking about a world where you have MCPs for everything. Everything can be integrated with everything else. But what makes sense in your environment is really something that leaders need to figure out. And also us as consulting partners, when we propose solutions, okay, how does it all come together? And the fourth most important trend that I see is a lot less gray hair. I'm seeing a lot more younger population, in some of these engagements, because I feel that there is a lot of baggage. Experience is very valuable, but it also brings a lot of baggage. So there's a lot of habits and things that you need to unlearn, and new things that you need to learn. Where it's a lot easier to get, some of the youngsters coming in. They're almost AI native, right? So that's a lot easier to sort of build into that, the new engineering methodologies or ways of working. So I think those are some of the 3 or 4 things that I'd like to mention. But it's interesting because it's not done, and I feel it'll continue to evolve, and it's evolving really rapidly, and all of us are really doing our best to keep up. But it's an exciting time to be a part of the industry, I would say.
Super. And Raghav, love to have you add to it as well, especially.
Yeah. So thank you. So I completely echo what three gentlemen said. I would like to bring certain fundamental aspects how AI will evolve based on my and everybody's past experience, right? So take an example of a calculator which came to the world in 1920s around. So people used to write it on the paper and do it a calculation and then compare it whether the calculator is doing right or not. Eventually, people started believing and trusting the calculator without doing any calculation apart. So today we blindly accept and trust the calculators, right? That went for at least 20, 25 years. Then came the Tally kind of a software where CA or somebody, people, financial guys used to have both the things. One is a software and the ledger. So eventually, ledger went away. They have only software today. So now what is the envisioned is the AI is getting into intent-based implementations, right? Intent-based means what I want is only important here. So that is where it is directly aligned to the business intent. Rest all is assured as a commodity, right? So these whatever AI tools you're saying, Cursor AI, $60 billion. Imagine, it's not a small amount, right? Even any of our service organization not gone to that level from last 25 years.
Yeah.
So that is the way world is looking towards, right? So it will have a complete shift. It will become intent based. The person who knows how to handle the AI as a person, the person who knows how to understand the behavior aspect of an agent, those kind of roles will come into picture in near future. Now, eventually, with being a 2 examples I said, eventually that human in the loop is the way we are speaking about, right? Everywhere you put human in the loop. Then somebody said orchestration will come up. Definitely. When orchestration, we talk about orchestration, that is where human will come on the loop, right? Eventually, human will come out of the loop. That is what I saw talking about intent based. So eventually next 5 to 10 years, that's the way. So it's not the mass business, it's the niche business, it's the class business, it will come eventually. That's my point of view towards this. Working with large customer, that is what they're looking for. Yeah.
Raghav will come back to that point.
Yeah.
Pushing human out of the loop because it's an interesting point of view, though. But I think just building the kind of continuing the movement, right? Is I heard Ninad saying, you need more orchestrator platform,
Yeah.
right? Because
That is
then
human on the loop concept it is. I'm
Yeah,
telling it's
yeah,
a vision.
yes,
I'm telling it's not there today. It's maybe
it will
after,
be.
like how calculator and tally software changed the world. That is how it is evolving towards. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
I'm aligned with
So
all the three gentlemen.
absolutely. So moving to my next question, where and then Jeb also spoke about, right? And, is multiple agents, and so I think and Kima spoke about, right? Like eventually, we are not talking about work, but we're talking about worker, right? Is how that agent would look like complementing, and then the KPI will change. So I believe that what we see is quality is kind of a bit of a shift, or rather a big shift towards quality as a platform slash agent, right? Or agentic quality. How do you see this shift in your organization, as well as what is the hardest part of uh, operationalizing it in kind of ensuring that it works the way it is? I would love to have Jeba starting it from you again.
Yeah, sure. So there's again, going back to what I also said, I think quality engineering has become or is becoming more platform driven versus people driven, right? So when you talk about quality as a platform, a few things are fundamentally changing. I think partnerships are a lot more critical than they used to be. So it's not like, oh, there are different softwares available, and if there is an opportunity, we talk. So it's not anymore. I spend a lot of my time talking more with partners these days, because it's more of an ecosystem. And when I say talking, it doesn't mean just working together on proposals. Yeah, we do that as well, but we are also co-innovating, right? So as a part of the ecosystem, the interoperability and the ability to integrate between different platforms, and so that we talk about it all the time as well. How do I bring in a playwright as a part of a hyper execute, and what do I do if I have this other tool, can I integrate with this? And then we put together not just demos, but even in terms of really assets and accelerators that we have as an organization, how do we really co-innovate to make what makes sense for our clients, for mutual success? So those partnerships, I feel, have become a lot more critical than they used to be. Obviously, there is also a lot more investment in terms of building these platforms. So all of us, we have our centers of excellence. We've always had accelerators, but I feel there's a certain level of standardization within organizations to say, oh, there's different groups doing different things. We all need to come together and have one point of view on what does this mean for quality engineering? How does this work? And how do we take it to our partners, so we have a clear and a clear strategy and consistent messaging to the market on how we will go to market, right? And then the other aspect of it is the people enablement, and I know we will talk more about this as a part of this panel, so I'll park that there. But I think that's kind of my take on it, Sudhir. And it's very critical to be able to actually drive the outcomes that we want to drive for our clients.
Cool. And because Nenad, you spoke about it, the
Yeah.
whole uh, multiple roles will have SDET AI, and then developer AI, and then people building AI. Right? What's your
Absolutely.
view on the challenging part of kind of having a
Building the
stream
platform.
in an organization? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we have seen in our organizations, we have kind of identified. So, the two areas, right? One is the engineering part of it, the other is the business part of it. When we talk about productivity, we are today talking about hyper productivity, right? So, when it comes to a testing lifecycle, for example, we kind of try to identify areas where we can develop a platform which can be to completely agentic. Okay, so and then there will be some processes which will have the human in the loop, right? So, for example, our organization has developed a quality a platform which is a AI platform for QE, wherein we have identified processes right from the requirements, right, to the test execution, and then for continuous improvement. So there are these three areas in a testing life cycle that we have to look at, right? So when it comes to, let's say, building the requirements to the the test cases, right? There are certain areas like impact analysis based on requirements, or test case creation, which is the favorite one, right? Building the test cases or the test scenarios, wherein it can be done completely using agents, whereas things like test data conditions identification, then the pair programming, or for that matter data test automation, these are the areas which will require human interventions. When we talk about reviews, it will require human interventions. Similarly, for test execution, the most favorite ones, right, are the developing scripts for UI automation, for API automation, right? Now, these are again becoming very easily done by the agents themselves. Whereas if you talk about test data management, there will be certain human in the loop, right? And then there are this migration of test scripts, which are basically would come under the continuous improvement kind of process. So while developing this the platforms, these are the areas which we can talk about. Well, we can go in for hyper productivity, right? And that's where we feel that the platforms are developing using AI, identifying the right use cases, and then go about implementing those use cases. Now, the catch and the challenges that you asked, right? So when it comes to the clients, we've seen our clients, they would also develop some of their own frameworks, and we do have a frameworks, and especially in banking and financial services clients, where it is very difficult to get in products within their environment, right? So it is important to build these kind of agents within the client's environment, right? And that's where you need to actually have these builds quite faster. So primarily, it is very important to identify the use cases which will give the maximum benefits, and take up each of these use cases and build that framework around these use cases. So that's our take.
Super. I think in the interest of time, I'll just probably have another question for Raga, because he touched on um, an debatable topic, right? Human out of the loop, right? So, Raga, you're building agents and you're deployed in mission critical um, enterprise softwares. How are you validating those agents? When you're thinking of having human out of the loop, right? And or I'm assuming that is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
it will be future. But as of today, how do you make sure that testing AI is being done and it's production or enterprise grade ready?
Yeah, so I'll come back to Ninad's point. So, human in the loop is important today because the AI is not mature to that level. But still, some of the agents, I'll tell you, for example, requirement quality agent, scenario identification agent, synthetic data generation agent, self-healing agent, these are all become autonomous, where we have already kept these agents where human has kept out of the loop, right? But still the mechanism comes, how do you ensure these agents are working as expected, right? Eventually any customer will use it. For example, BFSI, 100% sure we can't bring anything inside there. They have a lot of restrictions. Putting one agent inside, at least we have to talk to 25 people within their account, within their organization side. All the CFO will come, security or officer will come. You have to show all the code, everything, white full. Clear, crystal clear code, Python code, everything you have to show them, and then you have to connect to their LLMs being provided. It has got a lot of restrictions. Lot of things will come, but still here to evaluate, we are as somebody Jeb was talking about partnering, right? Yes, we do have certain partner system ecosystem here to get into observability part. It's something like, I'll take a basic example again. Say for example, we have taught somebody to drive a car, right? So car is driven by him properly, we have certified it. But we have to keep monitoring at what situation he might go wrong. If there should be an alert mechanism. If he drives more than 80 kilometers within city speed, if he pushes an harsh braking mechanism, there should be an alert mechanism. For any of the cars you might have seen, there is a report comes after that saying that this is your scoring for your driving. In the same way, there are a couple of partners who helps us here, but still for a couple of engagements in retail organization, in insurance organization, where we have implemented eval based solutions, right? I'll tell you the tools like Ragas, DeepEval, Microsoft AI Foundry, Promptfoo, and Confident Type is a cost one actually, but Dissect is a cost one. There are so many other tools are there. But and then out of all this, we have created one more solution called, which is based on embedded embeddings, custom embeddings, basically, right? So the problem here is you are bringing another LLM to judge it. So what if that LLM also bias is a question? We don't have an answer today. For example, we are trusting one LLM to do some action. If that does mistakes, another LLM is being kept to monitor. This is called a concept called LLM as a judge. What if that goes wrong is a question today. Even today, I don't have an answer for that. Eventually it gets matured. But now we have applied this. For example, I said where we can just lightly go without human in the loop, we can take some certain chances there just to show the productivity gain, people reduction cost, so that these activities are being covered up by agent. But still, at the test case creation level, applying the criticality of the business case to that particular test case, still human in the loop is important at this moment, actually. That's what I said.
So the past is history and future is mystery. So anything. So there is always some level of probability of occurrence in whatever we envision, whatever we think. So somehow I echo and relate to what Raghav is saying. We have a vision, and there is always some possibility of human out of the loop.
See, evolution can take place in anywhere, right? We can't control, right?
Correct.
That's how industry. If you look at the products built today, it's all accidental. There is no intention behind building those products today in the market. It was intentional, it was unintentional, and incidental sometimes, right? As you said, that's how industry is moving towards. Yeah.
Accidental innovation, right? Is
Yeah.
solving, yeah. And I think, I mean, so what is my takeaway is, yes, we are getting there, but, the agent are not something you can trust them today for autonomous. I mean, some part of it, but for business critical, you still need human in the loop, right? And until, of course, and this needs a lot of model training, etc. Jeba, we lost you for a while, but love to hear your thoughts on, the same question that that I asked earlier is, are you comfortable enough to have agents run mission critical applications, and who's testing them? How do we make sure that they make the right decision? I'd love to have your perspective on that.
Yeah. So again, so there's two parts to that question, right? So one is, are you comfortable enough letting the agents run autonomously, especially mission critical systems? Absolutely not. I don't think we are there yet. Even if technology reaches that level where the agents are able to autonomously run mission critical systems, that's absolutely not something that I would recommend. Again, that's also the industry position of us as an organization, right? So we always recommend humans in the loop. I did say though that the dev to QA ratios change, so maybe a lot less humans than there used to be, but we definitely need humans to validate certain things, to provide judgment, to make some of those critical decisions before we let the agents to do some of the stuff. But the second part of the question is, what does validation look like before an autonomous agent is allowed to touch production? For us, when we look at we have the test management approach or the TMAP, which has been there for about 30 years. We kind of wrote the the book, and that's sort of a framework Bible for us on risk-based testing, which we follow, and that's also evolved. So last year we released a book, basically the newest version of TMAP, called Amplified Quality Engineering, that also talks a little bit about how do you validate non-deterministic output. It's not a question of if this is my input, this is going to be my output, because the output will change a lot, right? So we are now testing things like functionality-wise, we are testing things like hallucination and drift. Then we test for privacy. Okay, what level of data exposure, PII, PHI, anything in there. Then we test for security, prompt injections, and things like that. We test for reliability. What is the latency variance, and how does the agent react in different contexts, different environments. We test for sustainability. We test for some level of humaneness in terms of demographic bias and things like that. So I would say that observability as a discipline has come a lot closer to quality engineering, especially when we are testing agents. We are using things like Phoenix Arise, Optic Com at Langfuse, things like that, which typically you hear from an AI ops kind of a setup, more in quality engineering, because those are all tools and platforms that are needed for testing of agents. We also work with partners, and so we have talked about the TestMu platform and the ability, capabilities that it has on testing agents. So there's quite a bit of validation. So it's always a crawl, walk, run approach. Build the agent takes a couple of weeks, maybe a lot less than that. Harden it, and then you scale, right? And then the last thing that I would like to also call out is the whole tokenomics part of it. Building agents is one, but as it scales, what happens in terms of the token consumption? Is it optimal? And it's also not the case of, okay, I kind of validate, looks okay, and I put it in production and I forget about it. It's not. So that's where I said the observability also becomes a lot more important. So again, this is an evolving field. I wouldn't say that we've got it all figured out, but there are different aspects of, okay, the framework of how I validate, what are the things I will look for, which I never used to do before. What are the things that I should have in terms of tools and platforms that I haven't used before, and how do I set all of this up before I even scale? That's basically how we go about it, in my opinion, Sudhir.
Super. And Raghav, I come back to you on my next question. You mentioned about some of the tools and around eval, but I think the overall enterprise demands more than eval. So how do you govern AI agents across diverse, complex legacy enterprise ecosystem, and where stakes and risks are very high, regulatory industry compliances are very high? What's your view on that, Raghav? What's a way we should govern these?
Good point. So this I'll just bring certain point. This will answer the tokenomics parts as well, plus the agent accuracy part. See, for example, when you are talking to agents without a context, it can assume anything. For example, I'm sitting in India asking certain questions about a banking where my customer is an Australian bank. It might get confused and consider the compliance regulatory of US. I'm just taking an hypothetical example. So now it is very essential to educate an agent on the domain regulatory aspect as well. So that is where the concept of knowledge fabric or context fabric will come into picture. This will address two things. One is you are making agent domain aware, plus you are addressing the token part as well, because some of the times what it will do. So when we enable the engineers individually in project levels for operating towards AI ways of working, what they will do, they upload BRDs, they upload requirement documents, they upload entire exported regression suite itself, right? So imagine the token cost. You take an example of Uber. We spoke yesterday. Even though it's a $54 billion company, investing $500 million on tokens for 1 year is a very huge cost for them, right? So they said at least 60% of their work, they said, I do not want AI at all. They scrapped it. Simple, I'm just telling. So imagine token cost is all meter based now. Now how you put your electric bill in the same way your token bill will come to the organization today, right? So that is where the rack system, rack process will come into picture. So what we will do again, rack process, maintaining the rack itself is another challenge part. Okay, that becomes a bigger question. Because it's not the QA organization going to own that cost. It's an organization level, right? That's the problem. When you propose from quality engineering side, they will say I'm not the owner for this because it becomes heavy cost for them. So it's a organizational decision to create a knowledge fabric for that. Who will maintain it? So that's why what we have done, we have created a layered approach for many of the customers. To be frank, one is a business layer which won't change oftenly. Very rarely, for example, an India RBI rules comes with some sort of changes in KYC. Then only it will change. For example, for Indian banks. And then there is an application layer. Application layer is unless there is a modernization, right? For example, people are moving from Java to Angular, or somebody from COTS-based platform to the custom-built solution, something like that. Then only that layer will change. And then another one is transaction layer. Transaction layer is totally your agile-based processes, right? Whatever you do as a part of snow tickets, whatever you do as a part of your defects, whatever you do as a part of your production defects, etc. It will come. So that is where some cost comes into picture, where you keep creating a context around that. So again, the layered approach will be created according to the overall business layer across organization, application at the lobby level, and the team level. There is again pod levels. So when the person need not have to upload all the documents. He has to upload only the user story, saying that I want test cases for this. Immediately, RAG will contextualize the query so that an agent is aware of what it is required along with the context of the business. So your tokens cost is effectively addressed. You are contextualizing and you are making domain aware of what it is done, right? And then, as somebody said, so it is always probabilistic. It will never be deterministic, because the same question you ask again and again to agent, believe me, it will also get pissed off like a human being. It will also behave like a human being, right? So that is where the behavioral aspect of the aspect comes. Now, 𝐶𝐲 was talking about evals, right? In that, there are about 200 metrics, right? Hallucination, F1 precision recall, accuracy, a lot of deviation related metrics will come. So considering 10%, 5% of those top metrics, which will help us in measuring the accuracy of the particular agent output. That is how we generally do it. So in any agent we build, there is a guardian agent running in parallel. That is how we have built our solutions now. That has been implemented in multiple engagements as well.
That's very interesting. So for every team, pod, every layer of agent, you also have a parallel auditor agent running it, right? Ensuring that
for every agent, there is a parallel guardian agent which will show you the industry standard metric. For example, hallucination, toxicity, relevancy. It will keep running as a NSE score. So immediately you can decide as a part of human being.
It goes back to what 𝐶𝐲 said, right? The whole observability, right?
That is production systems.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Super. 𝐸𝐸, any pointer on token economics? I mean, I think that's in the leadership.
And I think it's a very very good field these days, and especially from business point of view. If let's say as leaders we can consult our customers in terms of how they can optimize their token cost, we are just very easily into the ecosystem, and there are strategies around it to be very smart strategies, and there is always some scope of optimization because not every enterprise is using tokens in the most optimal way. And this this agent governance, this is also I think a very, very relevant and important topic these days. And there are a lot of products also in industry nowadays, which at least are claiming that they do agent and agentic governance. Some of you might have heard about some of the, the control towers, agentic control planes being released by many enterprises. And some have 3 layers of security, some have 4, some have 6. But ultimately, they want to make sure that an agent should do what they're supposed to be doing. But even after all of that, recently I was reading a news. One of the agents deleted the production data of a customer completely. and it was
Not surprising, right?
yeah. So this topic of predicting the probability, predicting that an agent will still do what it is supposed to do, we can improve the accuracy of it. We can create higher and higher confidence score. But can I just put my finger and say 100% this agent will do what it's supposed to be doing? At least I think as of now, probably I'll doubt as a leader, but maybe in future the technologies evolve and there are more powerful control planes and agentic control platforms in place, which will ensure that nothing goes wrong. But we can put a lot of guardrails in place. So I agree to Raghav's point. Before an agent does something, it goes through a network. It goes through a process, and there could be gates in that process to ensure that this agent is actually allowed to do that or not. So all those guardrails are possible, and I think a lot of enterprises are already doing that, including Nagarro.
Yeah, in fact, just a point on that is, yes, for every agent, there are certain risks that are associated. For example, there are a number of agents which are created, but they are not actually governed. So one has to go through the life cycle of the agents to ensure that there are no inherent risk in terms of the levels of access that an agent could have, or permissions that a particular agent has actually acquired, which could be a unmanageable risk, right? So there has to be some identification of non-human agents, and then there has to be some control via humans where we can identify such cases.
Yeah, I mean, every agent will have an attack surface.
Yeah.
So when we develop an agent, it's very important to identify that attack surface and then maybe have some guardrails around it. Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah.
Super. Thank you for valuable insights. I think next question is my favorite, and you all being leader, I think it's a very common conversation in the room when you're meeting your teams, and is reskilling, right? I believe the whole career path changes with the whole AI adoption and new ways of working. We heard Ninad, Kima, Jeva, and Raghav about what's happening. But what is the honest career path you see or you suggest to QA and rather like automation engineers, especially in an enterprise ecosystem where picking up a domain may take years? What's your view? We can start with you, Kima.
Yeah, sure, Sudhir. And before I talk about it, there is a recent report from World Economic Forum which says that there are many disciplines which will either transform because of AI or where the business will reduce. But one discipline, which is quality engineering, at least this report predicts that business will increase. I think which is good for the entire quality engineering ecosystem, and they have their reasons around it, valid reasons. As far as the transformation in the role and the skills is concerned, and as I mentioned, the world will still need testing today, tomorrow, or in future. The world will still need automation. But the way we approach for it, the way we approach for testing is going to change. We may have a different tool set, we may have a different approach, we may have a large language model in place, but ultimately the need for quality engineering is going to stay, which is, I think, an important thought process from my point of view. Now, what I see at least in my teams, the skill levels, probably I'll just categorize them into few broad categories. Level 1 is where our engineers are just using these tools to improve their efficiency and productivity. And there could be sub levels into it. Some of them may be really experts, some of them may be beginner. But the idea is to use AI to enhance the efficiency and productivity. They may be using large language models, they may be using GitHub Copilot, they may be using something else, they may be using any other platform, but ultimately something that is helping them deliver faster. So this is one level, and it will have multiple sub-levels. The other level, I think, is where our engineers are then creating sub-agents. So what Dinad was also mentioning in the beginning, that an ability to use algorithmic models and create an agent, create a model in itself. And this is a completely different skill set. And I feel that within quality engineering, we will need people who carry the mindset of quality engineering to create such models or agents, whatever we want to call them. So this is the second broad level where engineers are not using AI, but they are basically creating algorithmic models and then probably also testing these algorithmic models through different AI tools. So this is second layer, and this will also have, I think, multiple subcategories. And finally, we have also seen a bit of transformation around AI enterprise architects. So a lot of our enterprises now, they need some sort of consultancy and advisory in terms of what should be their overall AI ecosystem, processes, governance, tooling, skilling, resourcing, environments, because AI is everywhere. So all of this requires a broader thought process. This is not something that somebody can work in one corner in isolation. This requires a broader enterprise level. Maybe a platform like TestView also is very useful, Sudhir. I won't hesitate to say that in this conference. I think it's also a very powerful platform. But something similar that can bring everything together into one common box, and then our engineers can work on it and at an enterprise level. So this architecture, the AI architecture, is probably one more skill that is, I think, very fast gradually evolving.
I also like the fact that the whole algorithm piece, right? I mean, that will also be highly applicable to token economics. So, Dinard, moving to you, what's your view on the reskilling and career path for your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So, uh, primarily, as I said earlier, right? So we are seeing a typical pyramid wherein we have our engineers and developers who are using AI, as Kima said, right? So they have been using AI in different formats. For example, for creating test cases, there's basic things that they do. The next level that we are looking at are the AI engineers and the today we call them the SDETs, but then they will soon, move on as AI test engineers, we can say. So these are the next level where they would be creating certain, building AI into the testing processes. As we said, as we identify different test processes, they would be building certain agents, certain workbenches wherein we can use these agents in our testing process as such. The next level is the forward deployment engineers, right? So these are the ones who will actually help in productionizing this tool sets, right? So this is a further level along with the AI architects, right? So here we're talking about working with multiple agents and how we can have agents talk to each other and so on. And then the next highest level, in terms of the career pathway, as we can say, are the agent orchestration leaders, right? So these are the ones who will actually orchestrate all the platforms, okay, building the context, building the business outcomes, right? So this is what we are looking at as a career path in a very different format. And to enable that, what we are also looking at the way we kind of reskill our teams, right? So basically, what at our place we have identified are three levels of employee categories. So one is the level where we have the AI foundational levels. So every employee in the organization will have to go through this AI foundation level, which basically talks about how do you understand Gen AI, how do you do prompt engineering, have basics into one of the tool sets and so on. The second level is the AI assisted levels, right? So AI assisted is where you understand all the details about how do you create agents, how do you what is RAG and all the other concepts, right? Which will, how do you use the IDE to create something, or to develop something, or to create test cases, to create test scripts for various different type of platforms and so on. So that's the next level. And the third level is the advanced AI, which we are talking about for the AI architects, test architects, test AI architects, or the orchestrators, right? So these are the three levels that we are taking our employees through. So one is the career path, and to enable that career path, these are the three levels of skilling.
Super. And Jaiba, how about you guys?
So again, a lot has already been covered, by my esteemed peers here. But I think if I just simplify it, thinking about the future career path, I at least see personally three paths. Right, I'm not going to go into what we as Capgemini are doing to reskill our workforce, and that will evolve. We did something last year. We are already looking at, okay, what do we need to do for the future? And I don't know. I think it was Nina or Kima, somebody who said that these platforms are evolving every quarter. So that aside, I see three potential career paths. Right, one is more domain knowledge. We definitely need the domain experts who can judge, evaluate the business intent. I think Raga was talking about, the RBI rules, an Australian bank versus a US bank, and what needs to change. And somebody really needs to understand the banking domain to be able to even distinguish, okay, what I'm getting, from this platform is not what I'm looking for. So that's one career path. We need definitely more domain knowledge, at least for people to judge. Take that forward. The second one is the evolving area where we're talking about the trust layer and governance. We spoke about observability, new tools, testing of agents, things that we are doing today, but that we didn't do 6 months, 12 months ago. So that is absolutely a second career path where we're talking about core testing of agents as a skill, that the whole trust layer and all of the skills around that. The third career path, and that's kind of where I feel, there will be an amalgamation of what we do today in terms of we are very specialized stuff. Okay, somebody's an automation engineer, somebody's a performance test engineer. I think all of those will consolidate. We are really looking at generic engineering skills. The so-called SDETs will almost become forward deployment engineers. They should have multiple skills, almost like a Swiss knife. They should be able to do performance engineering and automation engineering, but basically good, solid engineering skills with an engineering mindset and the curiosity to learn as tools evolve. Right, that's basically what we're talking about. The prompt engineering, the interoperability, the ability to sort of integrate between platforms and so on. So in summary, those are, I think, the three honest career paths that I see. One is the domain aspect, the second one is the trust layer, and the third one is generic engineering skills. That's as it stands today. Who knows where we are 6 months from now?
Raghav?
Almost all covered by Ninad and Jiva. So most I think how Wipro is looking at is almost what Ninad said, right? I'll just add a couple of pointers. Same thing, right? Who actually creates the agents is one pure technical skill, which is nothing but we call it as GenAI specialist something. But of course, Ninad said different terminology, but it's same thing. And FD, the same terminology we also use, forward deployment engineers, who actually he is a techno-functional guy. What Jeba said, both is connected together here. He will have technology, he will have functional knowledge, how banking works, how insurance works. He is a pure, comes from the domain with technology experience. So we can't put the banking guy to retail or healthcare, it won't work there. So he's a guy who understands the agents, understands the business, and then he creates the connection between the engineers who actually uses the agents. That is where deploys the agents and make sure it's working fine. So and then he monitors continuously the productivity gain of the agents is being properly aligned to the metric and KPI being promised to the customer. These are the three roles we are looking for. Entire Wipro is looking for 10% to 15% of the engineers to be upskilled with the first AI specialist role, and then 20% of FDE roles, and another 60% should be on the AI engineers role, right? So out of this, there is one more role coming. Somebody spoke about, I think 𝐸𝐻 was talking about domain expertise, which is most important factor. Who will govern the agents like human beings? He is the AI governance specialist. We are also looking for bringing such roles here who will actually facilitate the orchestration of the agents. Maybe one or two people for the whole biggest engagement is required here. This is a very niche skill, and then very limited skill is required. We're not going to create such people like an army, right? It is very less number of people is required. So these guys will actually, we call it as a marketplace. For example, one of the 2-3 customers we are implementing that, we are in the process of doing it, where marketplace contains the total orchestration of the agents, governance of the agents, tokenomics, estimation, agents pricing. So many things will be there. He will actually govern it, maintain it, and take it forward. So these are the 4 roles we look at. It is all about how industry evolves. We don't know, right? It's like an evolution, right? For example, if you take 20 million years ago, a human doesn't know how to use a stone, right? Operances took 20 lakh years to use the stone, right? And then it's all about tool usage, right? Now it is automation tool, AI tool. Tomorrow, what another tool will come? No, we don't know, right? It's all about we shape ourselves to change ourselves, get evolved to adapt, and it's all adaptation, skilling, survival skills, right? As everybody accepted, we don't know how the industry is going towards it. Maybe we can talk about maybe max of 2 to 3 years. After that, we don't definitely, or what will happen, because kind of revolution happening in the industry is too volatile, too dynamic, too many things are happening in parallel. Yeah, that's my point of view.
So last evening, I had another panel discussion, and I think all of you have added something similar, but just want to add one thing is, after prompt engineering, I believe what Hema said, right? There'll be a lot of role around trust engineering. Essentially, people will be building it. It will become easy. But what all of you said, right? Bringing that domain knowledge, bringing and aligning it to KPIs, and ensuring it's all compliant will be the trust engineering, where I believe the closest one will be the quality engineers moving into that kind of role, right? Because they will be the gatekeeper, and ensuring that whatever being built can be trusted as well. With that, I will move to my last question, and I'm laughing on this question myself, but still put it the way it is. And this is for everyone, and will be in the interest of time. I'll request everyone to keep it short. Is looking at the current scenario, right? How do you see? We have a lot of leaders listening to this conversation, and I know all of you have spent over at least 2 decades in tech world and seen ups and downs throughout in last so many years. What do you think the whole QE practice would look like in next 3 years, and especially what leaders who are listening to this conversation should be doing to prepare that future in the agentic era?
Maybe I start and then others can add. So see, currently, and this is just my view, currently it's human plus AI, and maybe it shifts to AI plus human. And it is just reverse of words, but it has very deeper meaning. And the other aspect is from, currently in many cases, testing is seen as a downstream function. I think that will probably change. And I think it has already changed, but it will probably change more and more. And boundaries among an automation, manual, functional performance tester will completely diminish, and maybe the boundaries between dev and QA will also diminish. I think that is what probably going to transform very, very fast. I'm just keeping it short.
AI plus human. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Raghav.
Yeah, thank you. See, definitely somebody said role will not diminish. Quality engineering will be there. Maybe the percentage of engineers earlier, for example, now how we use JCB to dig the hole, whatever, right? Earlier we used to have 50 people for that. Now the JCB, one person who digs the hole, and then it charges 3,000. It becomes an expensive skill though. 3,000 rupees per hour you give, you do everything and it'll go, right? For example, if you built any house for escalation of the earth, right, it will take 1 hour, just you will dig everything. In the same way, AI will also get evolved. So it's no more a mass business eventually. It's very clear actually, right? Even to be honest, in Wipro, we all have very, very big accounts, 700 people, 600 people, 300 people accounts. We are going and saying we will cut down the people cost by 50%. Otherwise, there is no other go for us. We are hitting ourselves, right? But still, we are putting the niche skills there. We are asking them to share through agent pricing. We are putting agents. We share the output out of it to the organization to come as well as customer as well. So eventually, agent will earn the money. That is one thing to the organization, and then the number of resources what is required in near future will be maybe 25%, not less than that for sure, right? The quality engineering is always required, no doubt about it, but the kind of mass business will come down eventually. That's what my personal point of view, being in this industry from last at least 20-25 years. Daya.
Jeba.
Yeah, thank you, Sudhir. Actually, I'm very interesting point that Kima brought up. That's my opinion as well, where he said dev and QA probably will get a lot more closer than it has been traditionally. And I think that's what I was also mentioning, the core engineering skills, right? Like if agents are doing everything, you will need somebody to judge, and then those boundaries blur. But anyway, without going into too much detail on the mature QE enterprise, we spoke a lot about it. I think leaders today need to look at evaluating how many test cases executed, what's my automation coverage, and things like that to change the KPIs into release confidence, customer experience, risk reduction, more on the business KPIs, more aligned to that. So once you shift the metrics, everything else will follow. Team structures will change, tooling investments will become clearer, AI adoption, skills development, all of that will change. So you start with the metrics that will define the behaviors is what I feel. That I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Jeba. Ninad.
Yeah, I would say, for the leaders, the engineering leaders that are there here, I would say it begins from the top, right? It is very important that the culture sets in across the enterprise. And for that, really, it should start from the top. I mean, our chairman, Mr. Anand Deshpande, he conducts masterclass on this particular topic. So it starts from there. And then for every leader, it is very important to be hands-on on the the AI, any AI tool. Take any AI tool, start building agents. Start building workbenches, so that it goes into your in your body structure, right? So it's important that everyone in the enterprise should be completely AI fluent. So that's my take for the current set of engineers, leaders.
Thank you so much. And I love the panel who finishes on time. So Jeba, Kima, Ninad, and Raghav, thank you so much for joining and sharing insightful pointers there. I truly enjoyed the conversation. For our audience, let's continue the conversation on social media. Don't forget to tag us and share the learnings from this session using #TestMeConf, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.